Good morning. When we see at the geopolitical situation in the last few years, we find that there has been a quantum change in the demographic struggles, and as a matter of fact, there should be nothing wrong with the people moving around from one country to another country, from one place to another place, in search of better opportunities, better avenues. But there's always a difference between a movement, a migration. There's always a difference with this because of the intent. If the intent is good, A, for your benefit, B, for the benefit of the world as a whole, then it's welcome. But if the intent is not good, then it is definitely something objectionable. I have nothing against refugees. If they are forced to move from a place to another place because of the political situation, because of the religious persecution, because of any other issue beyond their control. I remember very well 1969 and 70s when more than 10 million refugees poured into India from Bangladesh, and India could not support them. And the world did not recognize them as refugees at that time. So the result was the war and the creation of a new country. But the refugee problem has not been settled till date. You know, when the refugees come, they come with a baggage. The baggage of their cultural issues, the baggage of their historical issues, the baggage of their resentment, the baggage of their anger, the baggage of their getting revenge. And since they cannot take revenge from the people who have harassed them, they start taking revenge from the host. This is a perverted philosophy, but that's a fact. The easiest target is a generous host. And that's what happened in Cologne. That's what happened in Austria. That's what happened in Denmark. That's what happened in Germany. That's what's happened in France. And unfortunately, the refugees, especially if they have a criminal attitude or a parasitic bent of mind, then of course this is something highly, highly condemnable. And I am no lover of the unfettered freedom given to the refugees to come and destroy the economic and the cultural unity of a country. But there is another sort of a movement which is a blessing in disguise, and that's a migration. Are you aware that migration of the people has been responsible for the most of the innovations, has been responsible for more of entrepreneurial skills and enrichment of both the countries from where the migration took place to where the migration took place? It has been a win-win situation for all. Anti-immigration policies can impact any country's employment, economic growth, innovation. Now, historically, some countries are young and some have aging population. An aging population means that they cannot keep pace with the development. Secondly, with too many old people, seniors, that sense of entrepreneurship is lost. And when the migrants come, they come with high hopes, highly competitive they are, because they have got to make a mark. Unlike the refugees who have everything given to them on a platter, the migrants have to work hard to get everything. And they have to fight every inch. They are fighting against odds because they know that there is no fairy godmother going to look after them. And that's why the migrants are extremely successful. Look at the Silicon Valley. 90% of the startups are by the migrants. Chinese, Indians, whatever. But the migration per se is not bad. Now let's talk of the economic benefits of migration. I'm not bothered about the multiculturalism. That's the biggest hoax in the world, which has been devised to enslave people politically and economically. But a large number of migrants have been able to get out of that chain, the mental chain, and are successful. So let's see, in this tense atmosphere, which has been created by creating refugees and then according them welcome more than they deserve. If they're refugees, make them work. I can accept it. But giving them everything on platter? No, I cannot. Now let's talk of the economic benefits. There's a clear evidence that the economic migration, the migrations of people who are young, who are entrepreneurial, who are hardworking, who have set goals, who have no criminal intent, they promote the economic growth. There was a recent study done in England, and it found that the 21st century migrants from EEA, economic area, European economic area, they have contributed 25 billion pounds, that's almost $40 billion, to the public finances. Just imagine, any country getting $40 billion to the public finances would be lucky. And not only that, they paid 34% more in taxes than they received in benefits. So that pari passu is a positive thing both for the public finance and for the country's economic growth. Now look on the other side what the refugees do. Barring 4 or 5 examples of the refugees, people are very prone to come up. Steve Jobs' father was a refugee. One swallow doesn't make a summer. For every one Steve Jobs, there are 1,000 rapists and murderers. Let's not forget that. So, economically, when the people come to a new country, they contribute to the economic growth. You see, the World Bank says that when you increase migration by 3%, you generate global economic gain by $356 billion. So, workforce migration from one part of the world to the other, from one country to the other, if it's increased by 3%, the economic result would be $356 billion. And that's not something to sneeze at. Now that's one major factor, one major benefit of the economic migration, not of the refugees. The second, the countries where these migrants settle, be it USA, be it Canada, be it Switzerland, be it XYZ is immaterial, where they settle, they are more entrepreneurial and more innovative. It's as simple as that. They are in a new place, they have got to live, they have got to prosper. And then there is another factor, psychological. They have left their hearth and home. When they go back, they want to show to the people that, look, we were brave enough to break out of the mold, and we are successful. That living and rising in the expectation of their host country is something which is great. Now look at USA. It was the immigrants who founded companies like Google, Intel, PayPal, Hotmail, eBay, Yahoo. And I said, these immigrants in Silicon Valley are just 15% of the population, just 15%. But 90% of the startups are by them, and more than 50% of the patents issued are to these immigrants, not to the refugees. Again, I want to stress, migration has to be separated from the refugees' invasion. Then the third, you see, with the passage of time, every country builds up some skill sets, and other skill sets are lost, whether you want it or you don't want it. So the migrants fill in the critical gaps in the labor market. They can be paramedical services, they can be domestic caregivers, they can be thinkers, they can be writers, they can be actors. But given the demographic trend toward the aging population in countries like Canada or Denmark or Japan, and in almost every developed country, it is important to have young population of migrants who work hard and fill in the gaps of the skill sets that are wanting, that are not there. This gap cannot be filled by the local population. Let's be very clear about that. So that is the third one. And the fourth is the benefit to the home country, the native country from where they come. Are you aware that in last year, 2016, the total remittances to the home countries was more than $600 billion. More than $600 billion going to South Asian countries and China, primarily, almost 80% and 20% to the other countries. So, economically, this is a hen which lays a golden egg, not every hour, every day, but possibly every hour. Now, compared to the burden caused by the refugees and the economic generation created and caused by the migrants, you can see the difference in the two migrations. There's another thing as well. When the refugees come, they expect that all attention is given to them, that their culture is recognized and given undue recognition, but the migrants are normally acceptance. They believe in acceptance. They want to be a part of the total fabric and not stand out like sore thumbs. So that is culture, they contribute really to the diversity because they are contributing to the unity of the fabric, while refugees are tearing the fabric aside. The migrants want to become a part of the mosaic, and that's a possible thing. So, coming back to the original situation, the political leaders and the economic pundits have got to recognize that all migration is not good. Migration caused by the economic desire is acceptable, and not only acceptable, it's to be encouraged. At the same time, enforced migration for political reasons, other military reasons, what I call a hijrat sort of a ceremony or activity, is absolutely demeaning to the refugees. They are living on the handouts. And which human being wants to be a permanent, perpetual beggar? These politicians are in fact dehumanizing refugees, making them parasites and drones on the society, creating dissensions and disputes, and creating a society that is driven by civil strife, anger, resentment. On the other side, the migrants, contributors to the economy, growth, cultural diversity as a well-knit fabric. So friends, we have got to differentiate and accept migration as a fact of life that is conducive for a better life for individuals and for the society as a whole, and condemn and stop migration of parasitic criminal people posing as refugees or even being refugees. Refugees have got to be contained in the cultural milieu to which they belong. There would have been no problem if all the refugees had been settled in Saudi Arabia and the world had combined efforts to give money to Saudi Arabia so that they can be sustained. When the Bangladeshi refugees came to India, it was India which was looking after them because they were culturally similar. And that's why there was no burden on the world as a whole. The same should have happened now. Let's see whether the politicians would ever learn or not. I hope they do. Thank you.